To those who have been following the case closely, what happened is not surprising. Much of the Maltese media has known for some time that Vince Muscat has had information that he wanted to talk. But frankly, 15 years for one person in this case is not enough. It's also worth noting a related development. Yesterday, there were three arrests of individuals in connection with supplying materials for the bomb that was used to assassinate Daphne Caruana Galizia. These three individuals, Robert and Adrian Adjus and Jamie Vella, were among a group of 10 that were initially arrested in December 2017. It's unclear why the investigation and the prosecution have taken so long to get to these steps. But this is only part of the picture in what happened to Daphne.
Let's look at the wider picture if we can. You know, across the continent, do nations do enough to protect the work and safety of journalists?
In short, absolutely not. And Malta is a perfect example of that. The fact that something like this could happen in the heart of the EU and that it's taken more than 3 years for the investigation to even lead to these nascent steps towards justice is unacceptable. Frankly, bilaterally, states in Europe have mostly done very little to press their Maltese counterparts on the need for justice. And the fact that the Prime Minister yesterday said that this is evidence that Malta's institutions are working is not correct. What we have seen is a systematic failing in Malta, again, in the heart of the EU. Daphne's assassination shed light on systemic failings with regard to rule of law and democratic institutions, failings that have been well documented by bodies like the Venice Commission and other institutions of the Council of Europe. So what we need to see now is more action by other states to press for justice for Daphne and active protection of other journalists, because it's worth noting that those who continue to do the sort of courageous investigative work that Daphne did in Malta do so at great risk until we have the full truth and accountability for what happened to her. And if that is allowed to stand in Malta, it could happen anywhere.
Of course, we're following this story closely. Thank you very much, Rebecca Vincent, Director of International Campaigns at Reporters Without Borders there in London. Journalists across the globe are routinely subject to threats and intimidation in the course of their work. Our correspondent Shona Murray has been talking to one reporter, Patricia Devlin, who works in Northern Ireland, who's been targeted. Well, let's go to Brussels now to find out more and speak to Shona. Very good morning to you. Tell us about the type of stories that Patricia's been reporting on and what threats she's been subjected to.
Good morning, Rosie. Rather like Daphne Caruana Galizia, Patricia Devlin is an investigative journalist, as you said, there in Northern Ireland. Now, we know Northern Ireland suffered an armed conflict which was politically brought to an end in 1998 with the Good Friday Agreement. But a lot of the paramilitary groups and the breakaway groups, instead of engaging in political violence, engage in criminality. So there are still punishment beatings, punishment shootings, and these paramilitary groups still hold the communities largely to ransom in certain areas. Patricia Devlin investigates a lot of these, and it was in 2019 when she reported on the savage killing of a man in East Belfast that she started getting these death threats. Take a listen to her.
First threat that I received was over Twitter, in which an anonymous profile, had said there was a target on my back. Fast forward to October 2019, after my personal details were put on social media, including an invite to troll me. I received a message to my personal Facebook account in which the sender threatened to rape my newborn son and signed it off in the name of a neo-Nazi group, Combat 18, which has in the past had links to loyalist paramilitaries. That was reported to the police. The person that sent it was traced to them. There was no arrest. There still has been no arrest.
Patricia Devlin there describing some of the threats she's experienced over the past few years. Only just over a week ago, though, her name was spray painted on the wall in East Belfast with gun crosshairs. Another attack on her life. She's also received serious threats coming from the PSNI, who have told her, that's the police service in Northern Ireland, that her life is in danger. And things are not getting any better. We do have a lot more tension in Northern Ireland from some of those groups because of the Brexit, because of the Northern Irish Protocol. And there's a fear that that sort of disturbance is giving some of these groups legitimacy. So there's a huge concern for journalists like Patricia Devlin doing their work. Rosie?
And the concern for her just to be able to do her job. How effective is an intimidation campaign in stopping her being able to do that?
Well, obviously it's incredibly scary. We heard the case of Daphne Caruana Galizia there, who's ended up being a fatal attack. So of course it's very serious, and it also means Patricia can't do her work in the way that she used to, because she can't walk freely around some of the communities that she really needs to. And I asked her a little bit about whether she was frightened.
Was I scared? I wouldn't say I was scared. I was more disappointed, and I was worried for my family, because they have to see this, they have to read it. They are here when the police call to the door, when they hand you your security booklet, update your security. And I just would wish, Shona, that things would get better. You know, not everybody's going to be a fan of what you write, and that's fair enough, but you don't have to threaten people. You don't have to threaten their children. You don't have to put people in fear. For me, as a Sunday newspaper journalist, my job involves getting a wee bit deeper into things. And this has impacted how I carry out my job, because I can't do it the way I did it before. So I have to be extra security conscious. I can't go into certain areas now. And most of the time, the people that talk to me cannot talk to me over the phone, including victims of intimidation. So it's impacted me greatly, but it's not going to put me off carrying on, because the one good thing that has come out of this is I've seen the support that I've received for what I do, not just for me, for what I do.
That's Patricia Devlin, investigative journalist with the Sunday World, talking about some of the threats she's received over the past couple of years, including one to violate her baby. She said that the PSNI hasn't investigated a lot of those threats properly, so she's complained against them. So it's a very serious situation, Rosie. I would say, though, from Patricia, she said that the optimistic element to this is that there has been cross-community condemnation against those threats against her. But at the same time, it has impacted her somewhat doing her job, but she said she'll pursue it anyway. Rosie?